So let's get started. This is the typical question pattern, right? Out of the four alternatives, choose the one which can be substituted for the given words, sentences, and indicate it. So the first one that we have in front of us is that which cannot be defeated. So that's the phrase or the sentence, right? It's a phrase rather. And we have four options: invincible, invulnerable, infallible, and indictable. Right? Invincible, invulnerable, infallible, and indictable. So if you were there for our previous session where we looked at words and their meanings, we looked at a couple of prefixes and suffixes, right? And one of the most common prefix that we saw was in, right? And we said the meaning of this was not, right? Remember? So we looked at a couple of words, right? Bhaskar already given me the answer, but we looked at a couple of words. Intolerable, just to randomly give some examples, right? Intolerable, inactive, inability, incapable, right? So we said it basically gives me the meaning of not. Intolerable, impossible or cannot be tolerated, right? Inactive, not active. Inability or incapable, not capable or not able. So we understand this prefix in, which is a very clear prefix, right, in all of our options. So the next thing that we need to look at is our clue word from the phrase itself is defeated, right? That's our clue word from the phrase. Now, for some of you, this could be something that you already know, right? You're familiar with this word. It's not a new or unfamiliar word for you. But what about for those whom this word is completely new? You don't know what infallible is. You don't know what invincible is, right? You don't know what indictable is. The only probably thing that you might be familiar with is vulnerable, right? Anyway, having said that, we understand the prefix in and what it means. We looked at a couple of words, right? So likewise, we have a Latin root word, right? The Latin root word is vinc or vict, which means to conquer, right? This means to conquer. So now, having said that, I already know which of the options has this root word. So if I'm familiar with this root word, vinc or vict, which means conquer, so what I'm saying, not, you cannot conquer this person, right? Invincible, cannot be defeated. Another word, another synonym for conquer is to defeat, right? So, have we arrived at the answer? That which cannot be defeated, invincible. So, basically what we've done here is understanding a knowledge of the prefix in and the knowledge of the Latin root word, vinc or vict, which means conquer or defeat, has gone ahead and given us this answer. So even if you don't know the meanings of other words, right, being familiar with this root made it easy to arrive at the answer option. So let's look at the next question, and you try. The last one, a couple of you already gave me the answer. Let's look at the second one. A decorative handwriting. A decorative handwriting. Right? My options are calligraphy, manuscript, inscription, and hagiography. These are my four options. So I have to choose which one of these options give me the meaning of a decorative handwriting. Right? In fact, there's a Greek root word, either cal, right, which means beautiful. Right? Swati, you're correct. right? So just the knowledge of this Greek root word, C-A-L or C-A-L-L or C-A-L-L-I, and knowing that it means beautiful, right? A decorative handwriting. So the art of fine handwriting, especially beautiful handwriting, which is considered as an art, that is called a decorative handwriting. Calligraphy, right? Manuscript, on the other hand, Bhaskar, you said a manuscript is a handwritten book, poem, or other document, right? Or you could say it's a collection of all these handwritten documents bound together. That's a manuscript. Inscription, we know, right? Anything, you take a coin or a medal, whatever is inscribed on it, whatever wording is inscribed on it, that's an inscription. Hagiography is a biography of a saint, right? So here we're looking at a decorative handwriting. So just the knowledge of that root word will get you the correct answer option. Calligraphy. Let's look at the next question. The murder of a parent or near relative. Right? The murder of a parent or near relative. Our options are patricide, parricide, matricide, and homicide. 4 options. Now quickly, you must be familiar with some of these words, right? Just to quickly put it down. Petro or Petro, right? This is a Latin root word again, which means father, right? M-A-T-E-R, M-A-T-R-I. This again is a Latin root word, which means mother, right? So now it's a little confusing because some of you have given me option A, patricide. It says the murder of a parent or near relative. I can't have 2 options, right? My parent can also be my mother. So even C will qualify. So let's hold on and check for other root words, right? Homicidium. Which means manslaughter. Or homicidia, again, Latin origin. Right? Homicidia. This again means murderer. So basically we're saying homi means human being, right? It's a Latin root word which means homi or homin, human being. Very general. So if I look at all my options, look at all the options, right? I have patricide, which is exclusively saying father, right? So when I say patricide, it's the act of murdering one's father. Parricide, we don't know. Matricide. Matricide means the act of killing one's mother. We just looked at the root words helping us. Homicide, on the other hand, is very general. It just means the killing of one person by another, right? So parricide. So the phrase very clearly says the murder of a parent or near relative, which means patricide will qualify, matricide will qualify, homicide will also qualify, but we're looking at exclusivity. Just like how we're saying patricide is for father and matricide is for mother and homicide is for one person killing another person. Parricide, right, our option, which is very exclusive because we have something in addition to the parent, which is near relative. Right? So the answer here is parricide because parricide is the only thing that kind of exclusively can connect to the near relative apart from a parent. Homicide, it just says general, no? It doesn't say necessarily a near relative. Very clearly it says parricide is the only option where you can include killing of a father, killing of a mother, or other near relative. I can't look at the remaining three options because this is exclusively for father, this is exclusively for mother, and homicide is just one person killing another person, right? So, not necessarily a near relative. So, having looked at all of these options, I can safely go ahead and say option B is parricide because I can't choose any of the other three options, which is not including near relative. Yeah, so this is one way of approaching a particular question type in one-word substitutions, right? Looking at all the other options and understanding what meaning those words are bringing to the context. And the context is the murder of a parent or near relative. So I need to include all of my keywords, which is not only parent, also the relative. Signs of diseases. 4 options here, right? The first option, option A is philology. Option B is pathology. Option C is psychology. Option D is virology. Some of it you might already be aware of, right? For example, psychology, I'm guessing you should be familiar with that, right? It just deals with, it's a science that deals with mental processes and behavior. That's psychology. Psycho, that again comes from the Greek word, right? Psycho means mental. Yeah, so we're looking at this. So this I can eliminate C, right? Because we're looking at signs of diseases. So a clue for you, yes, some of you have given me the answer, but the clue for you here is, for those of you who are not familiar with any of the other words, right? Pathos is another Greek root word. Pathos. And what does it mean? It means suffering, disease. Emotion or feeling. Yeah. So understanding this Greek root word, pathos, right? Yeah, it's very sad. It's overwhelmingly sad because either this person is extremely suffering, usually from a disease, right? The experience is a sad, bad experience. So having said that, since it relates to the word, right, disease, I can safely say option B, right? Virology, again, you can quickly connect it to something to do with virus, right? It's a study of viruses and viral diseases. Philology, on the other hand, is just a literary study. It's a classical scholarship, mostly linguistics, right? So here, the science of diseases, just your knowledge on the root word pathos, Greek, which means suffering, disease, emotion, feeling, sad, gets you the right answer. Science of diseases, pathology. Let's move to our next question. An imaginary name assumed by an author for disguise. An imaginary name assumed by an author for disguise. What are my options? Homonym, nickname, pen name, pseudonym. Right? I want you to quickly pay attention and see what's the right answer choice here, and don't get misled with the options because some of them are synonyms as well, right? And keeping in mind the topic, I'm giving you a clue so you don't choose the wrong option. Homophones, homonyms, I don't know how many of you have heard that, right? When I say homonym, I'm talking about a word that sounds the same, or sometimes it's even spelled the same, but they have different meanings, right? See, for example, I'm just giving you random examples of homonyms. 8, 8, the number 8 and the action of having eaten, right? Cell, to sell, and then the cells in our body. Both sound the same, right? But they have different meanings. So these are homonyms, right? They sound the same, or sometimes they even have the same spelling, but they have different meanings. So this is not what we need in this context. A nickname could be just a short name, right? So for a name like Sai Kiran, the nickname can be just Sai or Saki. The first two names of the first two letters of each of this word, if you break it down, right? That's a nickname. Here we're talking about an imaginary name assumed by an author for disguise. So like Vidya rightly pointed out, right? So P-S-E-U-D, first 5 letters of this word. Yeah? It's a Greek root word which means false or untrue. The meaning is false or untrue. Right? Now, in fact, if you ask me, pen name and pseudonym are synonyms, right? But keeping in mind, some of you came back and saying, like Swati and Pavitra, you came back and said pen name. Pen name. The word itself has 2 words, right? That's why I said don't be deceived. We're looking at one word substitutions, right? You can safely eliminate C and just choose option D, pseudonym, right? That's the word. Pseudonym is a word, is an imaginary name assumed by an author for disguise, right? So our answer option is D. Swati, great example for homonyms. I'm sure most of you are familiar with homonyms, right? So for this particular question, again, we looked at the Greek root word, which means false, an imaginary name. It's not your real name, right? You've come up with it. It's a false name. So that's why I said I wanted you to pay attention to the topic. We're looking at one word substitutions, so you don't have to get confused with the options. Pen name, 2 words there. Next question, life history of a person written by another. This is an easy one, right? There's no need for you to get confused, but just in case you are still confused, right? We have a Greek root word. Can somebody quickly point it out if anybody knows it? So the Greek root word is bio, which means life. Yeah, Pavitra has again come back and given option B. So what you need to understand is life history of a person written by another. Pay attention to the context, right? The phrase says written by another. When you say auto, auto you know means self, right? That's a Greek prefix which means self. So nobody else is writing it but yourself. So you can eliminate option B in fact, right? Biography is our answer here. Life history of a person written by another. Bio, the root word which means life, right? And that's our answer. Memoir, on the other hand, is more of an account of the personal experiences of an author. And bibliography, that's just a list of the works of either a specific author or a publisher, right? So our answer option for the 6th one is biography and not autobiography, right? So if you're familiar with the prefix auto, one of the way of looking at these options is to break down very obvious prefixes and suffixes, right? So for B, if I obviously break down the prefix auto, I know there are a lot of words and immediately kind of try and look at applying or matching words that start with auto and what meaning does it generally give, right? That's one way of looking at it. Okay, so now that we've kind of figured out this, let's move on to our next question. A short, amusing or interesting story about a real incident or person. So my options are tale, hymn, ode, and anecdote. What do you think is the answer? So whenever you have the question, quickly I want you to kind of focus on keywords, right? We know we're talking about it's a story. That's one very prominent keyword. And the story is about a real incident or person, right? It's not imagined. It's not imaginary. So I want you to kind of break down and understand the phrase first. And it says another adjective to it is it's very amusing. So something very comical or interesting, right? So these are my keywords. So immediately when I look at the phrase, I understand, okay, it's a story. Probably, it's interesting because it's amusing. And it's about a real incident or person. So it's not about something imagined, right? So that's what this is. And I have to look at my options and figure out what it is. Now, if you look at tale, most of you should be aware of it. It's not a very difficult or unfamiliar word, right? So when I say a tale, I can immediately connect it to something not just real, but it can also be an imaginary event. That's why it's a tale, right? It's a narrative. So a tale is a narrative of either something real or imaginary event, right? So it's not just, so I can safely eliminate this option because our phrase very clearly says real incident or person. So I can quickly eliminate tale. A tale can also be a gossip or just a lie, right? A hymn, on the other hand, mostly Christians would be able to quickly connect to this, right? It's a song of praise or thanksgiving to God. So a couple of you came back and gave me that as an option. A hymn is it's a song of praise, right? It's sometimes it has 4 or 5 verses or maybe more with 3 or 4 lines, right? So that's a hymn. It's a song of praise to God. It's a thanksgiving. An ode is a classical Greek. It's a poem basically, right? It's a classical Greek poem. So we left only with anecdote. Now anecdote, again, quickly if I break it down, right? I can kind of break it down into very obvious segments, just the way it's pronounced. Pronunciation, usually we look at syllables, right? And we break it down that way. So anecdote. And I have the suffix te. Of course, this will be anecdote, it's just 2 syllables. But in this account, just to differentiate the prefix and the suffix, the common suffix is te. So if I look at just the word do, right? It's again a Greek root, which means to give, right? So mostly we know that root words are derived from either Latin or Greek. So having said that, anti, I'm just giving you other random words. Antidotum, that's again Latin origin. Or antidoton, that's a Greek origin, right? Now these have the root do, and both of this means something given against. So something given. Right? So let's look at words that have do. So I can say antidote, right? So antidote is again something given. It's a remedy given to either, let's say you had poison and you want to kind of obviously lessen the effect or kind of neutralize or counteract it. Then you give an antidote, right? Or a dose or a dosage. Again, it has PO, which means you're giving something, a specified quantity of, it could be a syrup, a cough syrup, or anything, a therapeutic agent given, usually a medicine, right? So either you take it, it's prescribed to be taken at one time or at particular intervals, whatever it is. So it's again something given. So anecdote, likewise, right, having this Greek root do, is basically giving a short, amusing or interesting story about a real incident or person, right? So if you are familiar with other words like tale, like I said, is not a very new or difficult or unfamiliar word. Him, some of you, maybe because of the context, that was not a familiar word. And then you have quote, and then you have anecdote. So for us, for this particular question, giving a short, amusing or interesting story about either a real incident or a person is anecdote. So a couple of you got it right, couple of you, because you were not familiar with the other words like him, you chose that. Let's look at the next one. Be the embodiment or perfect example of. Our options are signify, characterize, personify, and masquerade. Signify, characterize, personify, and masquerade. Be the embodiment or perfect example of. So what do you think is the answer option here? Any guesses? When you say, Bhaskar, when you say signify, right? When I say I'm signifying something, which means I'm indicating or I'm suggesting or implying something, right? It's almost like a sign, right? I'm either denoting it or it's a sign. It's either a sign or an indication. Of something, right? Or either you're suggesting or implying something here. Is that what the phrase is talking about? Be the embodiment or perfect example of, which means you are literally reflecting the role of some individual, right? It's like you're mirroring that personality. Right? That's what the phrase is. Be the embodiment or perfect example of. You're basically mirroring the personality of a particular person. If that's the case, characterize to describe. You describe the character of, but here it's talking about you just being, you're acting and behaving like that person. Right? Characterize is you're describing the character of whoever, right? But the phrase is talking about representing that person. You have the qualities of you act, you talk, you behave like that person. Your movements, your actions, your qualities, your thoughts. You're reflecting that particular personality. Again, if you are familiar with this word persona, right? Persona means to reflect the role of an individual. You think, you act, you behave, you move like that person. So basically it's the aspect of someone's character that is presented to or perceived by others. You could say a public persona. So having said that, option C seems like our best bet, but let's look at masquerade. Masquerade is, putting on a mask. It's like a false outward show. You're putting on a deceptive appearance. Right? This again is very exclusive. Like, let's say, keep the word mask. Masquerade, putting on a mask. Right? So here the phrase is not talking about you putting on a deceptive appearance or disguising or displaying a false outward show. The phrase is very categorically talking about you just reflecting the role of an individual, acting, behaving, thinking like them, representing them. Our answer option is C. Embodiment, perfect example of. These are our clue words from the question. Any questions in this one? Before we move to the next one. Okay. If you have, feel free to post it. But we're moving on to the next question. The killing of one's brother or sister. Again, in fact, we looked at a couple of words in our previous example, right? Patricide and homicide. We already know what those are. Patricide, we said killing of one's father. Homicide, we said one human killing another human. So we only left with B and D. Regicide and fratricide. So here, our clue words obviously is brother or sister. So some of the words that you need to be familiar with, which will help you identify the right answer choice. So we can safely eliminate A and C. We know those are not the answer choices because it's exclusively talking about killing one's brother or sister. So regis is a Latin root word again, meaning royal, kingly, belonging to a king or worthy of a king. It's regalis, right? So this has to do with king, but the option that we have is brother or sister. Now what you need to understand is the word fraternity. Yeah, I'm sure you would have heard of this word, right? The root of this word again is Latin, right? It means brother. So other words that you could be familiar with is fraternal, fraternity. So fraternity is nothing but the quality or condition of being brothers, brotherliness. Or it could also mean just a body of people united in interests, right? Like a teaching fraternity, right? All of them are united because they share the same interest. So a feeling of brotherhood, brotherliness, right? So having said that, our option here is we can easily go ahead and select option B. Just understanding this root word, Latin root word, which means brother, right? We already know that these are not the right options, A, B and C. A, father, C, one human being to another, regicide, exclusively to a king, right? So our answer option is fratricide, the killing of one's brother or sister, fratricide. So this again is an easy one if you are familiar with the root words regi and frater. Let's look at the next one. Study of the nature of God. Study of the nature of God. So what are our options? We have philology, we have theology, we have humanism, and we have philosophy. The obvious thing that we already know is philosophy, option D, right? The study of nature, causes, or what's the principle of reality. It could be knowledge, values, basically based on logical reasoning. So philosophy, we know. Humanism, again, something to do with human values, focusing on humans and their values, what they are capable of, what is their worth. That's humanism. Theology, again, if you're familiar with the Greek root word, theos, right? This is a Greek root word, which means God, right? So if you're familiar with this root word, you can just close your eyes and select option B, study of the nature of God. It has our clue word, right? Philology is to do with linguistics. I don't know if we looked at this word earlier in any of the options, but there again, just our understanding of the root words are quickly helping us figure out the answer. So Pavitra and Bhaskar, yes, you got it right. So let's look at our next one, a disease which spreads by contact. A disease which spreads by contact. What are our options? Infectious, epicure, contingent, and contagious. Infectious, epicure, contingent, and contagious. So our clue word from the phrase itself is contact. Right? So when I say contact, I'm talking about communicable, transmissible either by direct or indirect contact, communicable diseases. Right? Now, if you're familiar with certain root words like tangere, right? This is a Latin root word which means to touch. Right? So the form is actually tactus. T-A-C-T-U-S, tactus. So you will get two root words from this, which is tang and tact. So we have this right here. Right? To touch. So it's something to do with touching. So contact, again, we know that it is a meeting or touching of people or things. So when that happens, when you touch another person who has a disease that can be spread by touch, right, that becomes contagious. So there you go. Right? Infectious, we know, capable of causing infection. Epicure could be another word that you probably don't know, right? So if any of you follow MasterChef competitions, right? You have the UK one, you have the US one, then you have the Australia one. Right? If you're following those, epicure is a person devoted to refined, sensuous enjoyment, especially good food and drink. Right? So all the judges there, right? We can categorize them under this. Contingent is liable but not certain to occur, possible. So I can say, when I say contingent, I can say, true only under certain conditions. So I'm giving all this so that you are familiar with the meaning of these words, right? However, just your knowledge on this particular root, tact, right, which means to touch, right? And you can go ahead and pick the right answer. Let's look at one more. A person who seeks to promote the welfare of others. A person who seeks to promote the welfare of others. So our options are option A, philanthropist, option B, altruist, option C, saint, and option D, barbarian. Philanthropist, altruist, saint, and barbarian. So I'm sure out of these options you know saint and barbarian, right? These are not difficult or unfamiliar words. A saint, when will you call somebody a saint? When that person is an extremely virtuous person, you know, like almost godly, right? Barbarian, it can be just an insensitive, uncultured person, you know, somebody who's very fierce or brutal or a cruel person, right? That's a barbarian. So, who's an altruist? An altruist is someone who makes charitable donations. Okay, so philanthropist, again, the root word, there's a root here. Phil. This is a Greek root word again, right? Which means love. And I have that root here, right, as a prefix in option A. So what I'm trying to say is, obviously when you have love towards another person, you care for their welfare, right? You want good things to happen for that person, right? So this is one way in which you can connect. So Phil, the Greek root word, means love, right? And the phrase is saying a person who seeks to promote the welfare of others. Without you having love within you for that person, you're not going to make any effort in making that person's life more comfortable or more easy, right? So, option A. Again, one of the ways in which you can connect to the phrases is, like I said always, look at keywords. Promoting welfare of others, right? That's the keyword. Somebody who seeks to promote the welfare of others cannot possibly do that if they don't have love, or in this context we're talking about compassion, right? Compassion for another fellow being. So we've looked at quite a bit of root words here, right? So the idea basically is, let's quickly summarize what we've done. Right? We looked at a couple of root words, yes, right? So I would recommend you start expanding your knowledge on root words. 1, 2, again, like I said, just for you to expand your vocabulary, try practicing a lot of one-word substitution questions. So that can be a start for you.